welcome to Mole Confidential Season 6, Episode 1.
All right, we're back. Now, for this first one, it's just going to be me and Kama, but we're going to have some special guests in future confidentials. This one is a very heavy Kama-centric episode because of one of the challenges that Kama did a ton of stuff on, and we had a lot of questions about. But let's just go ahead and get started. There's some questions that I held off because some people message me questions. You can put them in the comments. You can message me if you want. It's up to you. There's a few questions that I've kind of waited until later episodes to answer. So we're going to try to talk about the generic stuff and some of the more common things. First one is, when do mole episodes air? That's a very common question, especially for people who are just finding it or were confused from the past. Every Friday, we always air the episode of Mole. And then on Tuesday, the confidentials air. Confidentials are all about what happened in the previous episode, behind the scenes stuff, sneak peeks, and we reveal your voting. We can't reveal your voting right now because you're still voting on the current episode. So the next episode will show how you voted on episode 1 of who you think is the mole. So none of that today. All right, so obviously we're going to get into a lot more detail about this next topic when we actually go through the other questions. But Kama, if you have anything to say kind of about that subject in general.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people were confused about the first challenge. Originally, what I had planned wasn't those 10 quiz questions. It was more of a murder mystery. Problem is, that would have taken longer than I expected, and it probably would have been unsolvable at this point. So I went with easier questions and then into a math segment. So that's the basic logistic of it.
What was funny too, now Kama did the first challenge. Originally, when I was first thinking about this challenge, my original thought was something kind of like Keep Talking, Nobody Explodes, or Bomb Corp, where it would be information on their signs that would tell them like who to trust and who not to trust and which things were right and which things were wrong. But those things are hard to do. So I don't know if Kama actually attempted that and just said, I'm going to go with math. But I was pleased with it. I was worried how well they would handle this quiz.
I thought they actually wouldn't do it, but you know. For the idea that you had, Boss, the problem with that is it was too many players, and I couldn't find a way to optimize it for those 10 players. If it was later on, I probably would have done it without any problem. But yeah.
All right. So the next question that somebody messaged me is, what happened during the elimination? There was actually really the next two things are kind of elimination related. And they were wanting to see the message that pops up saying that the player died. When we did the first episode, I think, did I have lava or fire down in the elimination pit? I had the wrong thing.
Lava.
So what was happening is when the eliminated player fell in, it was a slow, probably the most slow, painful death we've ever seen. And the player died to, let's say, lava, but it should have been a fire pit. So the message in my plugin triggers off of dying by fire, not by lava, so it didn't override the message. So I think right after that episode, if I remember right, I said something in Kama, Retro Poker, somebody went down and changed it to the right thing. And I believe in the second episode, it was fixed. And there was another issue, and some people were asking why I re-uploaded the video. I wish YouTube would let you like replace a video. But what happened is this group of players, and Kama can attest to this, were the most talkative players we've ever had, and over talking. So many times I wanted to try to get words in, and they just were constantly talking. They were quite the chatterbugs.
I mean, we're gonna go more into detail with that in the reunion, obviously, but yeah, they were really loud, over talking, as you said.
So usually what I like to do, and I told them multiple times, but they never once listened on this, is I usually, when I say when the screen turns red and I go, I'm sorry, blah, you have been eliminated. I tell them, let me get that out before you start your shock and dismay and all that. They did not. So what I usually do for the editing is I take their shock and dismay or whatever, and I cut it and I move it till after I say, I'm sorry, you've been eliminated. For some reason, when I rendered the video, it cut off me at the very end, everything I said after, I'm sorry, you have been eliminated. It never put me going in and saying, your guys' thoughts on blah being eliminated, and, get some rest, blah, blah, blah. None of that came back through. I usually try to watch the episode in its entirety before I upload it, but the first episode's always the biggest pain, and I did not start the upload until late, so I didn't check that very end part and missed it. So I uploaded it again. I had to figure out why it was glitching. I had to actually re-extract the audio just for that section and relay it, and then it worked. So I re-uploaded it just so people can hear that final bit. You don't have to re-watch it. That's the only real difference, is my audio is back after the elimination. So that's what that was. All right, so here we are. This is room 101. This world is the world before we actually started the first episode. So none of the players have come out here and put the signs on their rooms. As the episodes go, players decorate their rooms, and sometimes they took the signs down. So I didn't want to have any issues with that. So this was one of our first clues. And I showed all the ones that the players talked about during the episode. But they were right in the fact that the answer spelled Donkey Kong. They did figure that out pretty quick. Any comments coming from you in regards to kind of these clues when you were making them, or how it played out and that type of stuff?
When I was making questions, I was trying to make a 10-letter word. Doesn't matter if there was space in between or not. And I figured that Minecraft has the pictures, the paintings, and one of them has Donkey Kong in them, so I went with Donkey Kong. So the answers were already laid out, so I just had to lay out the questions for it.
Now, what was funny is when we first started the series, the players do their walkthrough where they come into the mansion. You guys see when I do the intro. They kind of mingled around. I gave them a chance to look around the first floor, and some of them started talking. I think one player, I don't know who, we'll maybe find out in a reunion, actually brought up the whole Donkey Kong. In fact, I think there was another Donkey Kong sign or something, and he thought Donkey Kong was important. So it was kind of interesting. And it really was. Once they figured out Donkey Kong without even coming up with all the answers, they were immediately locked on. But it seemed like a few players weren't 100% sure, but they just went with the group. A lot of players, I think, on this challenge were confused.
Yeah, I made sure in some of the questions they get a freebie. Like one of them, it's room 102 actually, which is right over here. The hint is all letters in all of the rooms will form a word, so that's how they pretty much got it, that it's Donkey Kong, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely some confusion. Some people wanted to talk through it more. And this was a very chatty group, a lot of over talking, a lot of confusion, especially when we had all 10 players. All right, so we're going to warp down to the elimination room, because this was the Donkey Kong sign here they went through. And this is where all the meat and potatoes of this episode occurred. So, here it tells you, here is how you figure out the code on the door. First step, you need all 10 numbers you gathered from before. Now you take 2 numbers each from room 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110. That gives you basically 5 sets of numbers. And calculate the digital root to obtain 1 number of the code. Now, Comma furnish an example here. Now, when you first did this challenge, you had called it, did you say like lowest common denominator?
Yeah, the lowest common denominator. Because that's what it translated to when I used Google Translate and all that.
So I was like looking at it going, how in the heck does the answer he give me, because he gave me what the code should be to put over there, how does it actually correspond to lowest common denominator? Mrs. Boz looked at it real quick while I was doing some other things, and she said it was, she called it something else, but I Googled that and found out that it was really the digital root. So this example here gave them more detail on how to do it. A lot of them didn't read this, or a lot of them started taking these as the answer. It was confusing, I think, to a lot of them. But just to give you a breakdown on how you do it, and I'll maybe pop something up on screen as I say this. So for room 101 and 102, that was D and O from the word Donkey Kong.
Yeah, which is 4 and 15.
Yeah, so that's your 4th letter, your 15th letter. You add them together, you get 19. If the answer you get is a single digit, that's your answer. If it's not, then you add those two together. So 1 and 9 would become 10. That's not a single digit. So you add those together, 1 and 0, that gives you a 1. And that's your first number. So then you take 103, 104 room, which was N and K, 14 and 11. And you do that same math process. 14 plus 11 equals 25. That's not a single digit. 2 plus 5 is 7. 7 is your next digit. And that's how you got that 17383 as the answer. Now, I'll let you punch that code in. Let's see if it still works. So
That
there it
still
works.
work, yeah.
All right, so before we go there, I think if we go through the wall here, we can see your redstone.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you want to chat about any of this, but this was Kama's redstone creation to handle the code.
Yeah, so when I got the letters, and we built 2 rooms actually, one for Donkey Kong, one for the other one. We could show the other one in a bit. I tried to make it a bit harder for them. So then I was like, I could make a code log, maybe with letters, but then I've seen that would be a 10-digit, and I couldn't have a 9 number space, so I had to do it in numbers, and that's how I got it to the digital root. I basically looked up the tutorial for those kind of code logs because I've never done anything like that, and I think this took me longer than the whole challenge.
Yeah, it looks like quite a mess, but it did work. I was honestly, I'll tell you one thing too. I was afraid to even enter the code because I hadn't talked to Kama before we started getting ready to record. I was afraid if I entered the code, it would like not reset. There was no easy way to reset it, so or it would glitch or something. So I was so afraid, and I'm just like, I hope it works. I hope it works, and it worked fine. So everything went good. But yeah, I was a little concerned about it.
I just did a reset on it if you want to look. When I type in the code again.
Oh, okay. That is pretty cool.
I mean, even if you do anything wrong, I did put a reset button in just in case, because I know sometimes they might get something wrong.
Yeah, I was just worried that we were going to have one of those weird situations where like something popped off of the redstone and it like died, and it'd be like we were stuck. And that's always my biggest fear in every episode, is that we're going to have a challenge that just literally falls apart. So once they did that, then they made this long journey to, in a sense, a room near a room in the mansion that was actually blocked off. And I guess it's going to be blocked off here too.
It should be, yeah.
Because this is a copy of the world before we ever started any of the episodes. I could have warped up there, but I figured why not let you watch this. So they moved really quick here. We didn't even really have time to spend any effort here, but the final question, which mole is the only mole that lost to the players? You only get 1 try for the levers. You fail, you lose. They pretty much all started screaming answers, and one of the players, I think, flicked this wolf switch very quick, and it
I
opened up this door.
actually don't think they read the last sign, so if they would have gotten it wrong, you probably would have had to stop them.
Now, the one thing I was unsure of, if they flipped the wrong thing, did something bad happen?
No.
Okay, so these switches here do nothing.
They do, yeah.
Okay. So obviously they had to flip this one, which they did. This opened up, and this let them come into the pool area, and they couldn't get in here because of invisible barriers that Kama put in, so that there was no chance they could come in here and maybe like try to peek in this room. Once this challenge was over, we busted this barrier stuff, and we let them escape. So they could all come out, and they could come back into the pool and relax in between challenges. So it was a very cool challenge. They did it. I was surprised. I was like, they're going to fail this challenge miserably, but they did do it. But it was a very good start. Very, very complicated challenge for Kama to build, but he did very well. All right, so this is challenge 2. Row, row, row your boat. Originally, I think our thoughts were, Danny had built the previous boat challenge back from one of the seasons. I don't remember if it was 4.
It was 3.
Was it 3? So we were thinking about having something similar to that. This thing here, what was this thing? Just decoration?
That was just decoration for the start.
Because I originally thought this could be a good place for a sign to be hidden, but I thought, it's pretty obvious for them. But it was a nice boat challenge. The new boats in Minecraft, obviously, much more stable. And they were able to run the course. I mean, Kama, you're welcome to take a cruise. There were paths that if you went, it would take you to your death, or at least a dead point. These 2 side points were not good. Drop-offs. Everybody had to go straight. I ran this course testing, and I flew off the side, and I went off almost the edge of the mountain because I was flying so fast. Here, I think we had to tweak it a little bit because I was worried that players wouldn't make this jump. You could actually fail, so Kama tweaked it a little bit. But here was the sign that players should have seen. And it says, "You are a sinking ship in this game. Love the mole." Now remember, when the challenge is over, the players are allowed to walk around the challenge, but in this case, boat around, walk around. So a lot of them moved all throughout it. I don't know if all of them saw it. I know some might have seen it. And it's up to the players if they want to reveal anything to the other players. They don't have to say if they found it. Some players are very open about it. Other players like to be sneaky. So we had some people get a little bit of stuck each right there. But they did get through it. And you can see Kama still making his way. Now, we saw Little Pie. I think she went that way once, but she did come back. Most everybody seemed to go this way. And then this was a little tight for me to fly through. And then, obviously, you can see they would then fly through here to the finish. Now, one of the things that you didn't really get to see is right over there. So after the challenge, the players came and checked this out. But we like to put little things in that sometimes you don't see them in the episode. Sometimes players don't discover them, don't talk about things. So we try to show that kind of stuff in the confidentials. Gives you a reason to watch the confidentials. So any thoughts on this challenge, Kama?
Well, when you told me that we should build something like Danny built, I actually asked Danny if he could build, but he didn't have much time those weeks when we started building, so I had to do by myself. I rewatched the whole boat challenge, but with the new boats, most of it was too easy. With the old boats, you could just put a pillar in front of them and they take like half a minute just to get around the pillar. But the new boats, especially with the new mechanics, it takes seconds, not even seconds. So I had to do some jumpings in there. Also, this biome was originally a snow biome, so we had to cover everything up above. Otherwise, the whole thing would have been frozen again. It was a lot of work for that one.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out well. It was a good challenge. It was one of those challenges, I always worry about when we do any challenge, if they're time-based, or even if, like that puzzle in the first one, are they too hard? Is it the time too difficult? Is it too easy? But this one really, they had a great chance of winning it. They didn't. But I did like, too, here, besides showing you the mole statue, I mean, you can see here was the start. So literally the start and the finish very close to each other. I don't know how many players figured that out initially.
I started building this challenge backwards, so the finish was the first thing I've done. And then went around on a lake and went upwards and all that.
So it worked out really well. I think they were two good challenges to start the season. You guys, I think, are going to enjoy a lot of the challenges this season, and lots of beautiful builds. This season, I think pretty much. I don't think I built anything. I think I think there's something I did in the past that was reused somewhat, but you don't have to worry about all of my ugly builds. So lots of beautiful things. It'll be very interesting, but hopefully people enjoyed this challenge. So here is a sneak peek at a challenge in our next episode. What could it be? All right, so next up, we're going to show you the eliminated players room. So here was our first episode, room 104, Casa del Craftman. Let's see if the mole had anything special to say. Craftman, you crafted your way out first. Love the mole. Very, very naughty. That mole, very naughty with the messages. So sadly, Craftman, somebody has to be the first to go, and it was Craftman. All right, that lovely moment that we've all been looking for. Let me cut to the magic right now.
It's the moment of the week. Oh yeah, baby, it's the moment of the week, baby.
This week's Mole Comment of the Week comes from S. Buchwald, which is a German name, by the way. And he or she is saying, "Moly, moly, where are you? Everybody knows it's true. You lied to us and we don't always see it through. By the end of the season, we'll know it's you. When contestants answer enough wrong, we will say to them so long. And as they fall down the hole, we will be one step closer to knowing who is the mole."
Very nicely done. How did you pronounce his last name?
Buchwald.
See, I would have said Buchwald.
Translated is pretty much book forest.
But that is going to do it for Season 6, Episode 1 of Mole Confidential. Hopefully everybody enjoys the season as it unfolds. Hopefully you're trying to figure out who is the mole. We'll let you know next week how your voting went. This coming Friday will be another episode, Episode 2. Hopefully people will enjoy that. And we had a lot of people say that they are excited about the episode. They're excited about the season. People are wanting to be in the next season. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's finish this season first. But the goal is obviously to do a 7th season. So, Kama, if you want to say your goodbyes too, we're going to be heading out. Goodbye from Season 6, Episode 1 of Mole Confidential.
Bye.